Okay, so we learned if-else statements where we execute a set of statements if a condition is true, and then we execute another set of statements if the condition is false. So we learned the variant of if-else. We learned only if statements, we learned if-else statements, and then we learn if-else statements, right? So there's another feature in C++ or C programming language that's called switch case statements. So switch case statements, they are similar to if-else statements where we use to execute a set of statements if the condition is true. But where do we prefer switch case statements? When we have some kind of menu-based options. So for example, let's say you have a food dispenser in the cafeteria where you have to make a selection for a food item. And then based on your selection, you will be asked to deposit the money. You will be asked to insert your card or cash bill, and then it will dispense that food item. So those kind of situation we use basically where we have menus, and based on the menu, selected menu, we do some task. We use switch case. So the syntax of switch case is we have a keyword switch, and then we will have an expression here. And this expression that you see here, it should return you an integer value. It should not return any decimal value, or it should not return you a sequence of characters. So this expression, it can return you only an integer value. This can also return you a character because character is internally represented as a number using their ASCII values. Okay, so this expression could be an expression which can give you an integer value, or it can give you a character value. So here we have switch keyword. Inside parentheses, we have an expression. This expression will give you an integer or a character value. And then inside a pair of curly braces, we have a lot of cases and a default statement. So what we have in the cases, so we have a keyword case, and then we will have an integer value. Okay. And then we have colon, and then we can keep multiple statements. And then at the end, we have a break statement, which is optional. Then we have another case keyword, and then we will have another integer value. And then we have colon, and then we have a set of statements, and then we have optional break statement, and so on. At the end, we may have a default keyword, default statement with colon, and then we have a set of statements there. So how does this switch case work? So here, this switch keyword, after the switch keyword, you have an expression. First, this expression is calculated. It returns a integer value or a character value. Then that integer value is basically searched inside all the case statement. So here, whatever you have basically value for that, that value first time is matched with this int1. If they are same, then whatever you have here, that will be executed. So let's say the expression value is matching with int1. So then all these statements will be executed. Okay. So if you have a break statement here, this is called break, which is a reserved keyword. If the break statement is there, then your code will jump out of the switch and it will come here. Okay. It will come here. Okay. If the value of expression is not matching with this int1, then its value will be compared with this int2. If that is matching, then all these statements will be executed. And if you have an optional break here, then your code will jump here. Right? And if the expression value is not matching with this, then you will check with this. If this is matching, then all the statements will be executed, and then this optional break, if it is there, then your code will jump. Okay. So now here, you may have multiple cases basically. Okay. And the expression value will be compared with the integer value which you see after the case keyword for each case. And if none of these integer values after the case keywords, case keyword, they are not matching with this expression, then if you have a default statement, then those statements will be executed. Okay. And then your switch case is ended. So here, the idea of switch case is that you again execute a set of statements based on the value of the expression. So what you do basically, what your program does basically, the expression is first computed, and whatever integer value that you get after the expression, that integer value is matched against each case. If any case is found, then the statements which are coming after that case block, those will be executed. And if you have a break statement, then your program will go at the end of the switch case statement. But now let's say if we don't have a break statement, let's say we don't have a break statement, then what will happen? Then here, your expression is evaluated. Let's say the value that you have, it is matching with this int1. Then all these statements will be executed. And then since you don't have break, then whatever comes following that, whatever statements you have inside that will be executed. And then let's say here you have break, then your code will basically jump here. So break is optional. So what is the point of break? That if you have a break statement, the moment the break statement will be executed, your code will jump out from the switch case statement. But if you do not have break statement, so whatever case comes after that, they will be executed, right? So you can put break based on your requirement. Most of the time we use break because we want to execute one case block, right? We don't want to execute all the case blocks, right? So we use basically break statement, but sometimes we may not need break statement. I will show you through the demonstration here. So here, this break that you are seeing, it's optional. Okay. So let's do this. Let's understand this switch case using an example. And let's take a simple example here. So let's write a program that will display whether an integer is even or odd using switch case. So we need to write a program using switch case that will display whether an integer is even or odd. So how do we do that? So we have this minimal program here. Let's do this. First, let's add the basic things. And then here, let's say user will enter a number. So let's declare a num variable of type int. And let's ask the user. Now, let's say we have another variable, let's say remainder. And this remainder will store if the num is divided by 2, what is the remainder that will be stored in the rem value. And then we write here switch, and we write an expression. So that expression is simple. Let's say rem, because it's a variable. An expression may have one variable, maybe more than one variables, which are basically connected through operators. But it may have, in the most simplest way, it may have a variable as an expression. And here, so we have, you see that we have switch, and then we have an expression. It is a basic expression, right? Rem is an expression. Okay. Or I can also do like this. Instead of writing rem, I can also write num %2. Now it's an expression, big expression, right? It has two operands and one operator, right? But for simplicity, let's write this. And then we have switch expression, and then we have case. Okay. So we have to put an integer value. So basically, when we are writing the program, we should know that what could be the possible values of the expression. Okay. So here rem will be either 0 or 1, because if you divide something by 2, the remainder will be either 0 or 1 basically. So we have case one int value is 0, and then we will write a statement here. The number is even. If the remainder is 0, the number is even, right? And then we will write break, and then we will write another case. So here, now let's examine this. How does it work? So you take the number from the user using these two statements. Then you compute the remainder here and you assign it to rem. And then you have switch, and then you have an expression rem. So the rem will have either 0 or 1. And then we have case 0. And inside that, we are having two statements. And then we have case 1. Inside that, we have two statements. So let's say rem, the value of rem is 0. So this value 0 will be compared with this case int value. So now this case 0 will match with rem 0. So then these two statements will be executed. So your program will display the number is even, and your program will execute break. When break will execute, your program cursor will come to line number 54. But let's say the value of rem comes 1. So then case 0 will not execute because 0 is not equal to rem, which is 1. Then it will go to this case statement. So here you have this integer 1, which is matching with basically 1, which is the value of rem. So then these two statements will be executed, right? So here, since we know that this rem will take either 0 or 1, so we don't put any default statement. But many times what we may have few comparison, and then we have a lot of options that we don't want to basically, we want to basically go with default. Let's say, if you are going to a cafeteria, you have a food dispenser. Let's say there are only 5 food items. Then you put basically 0 for one of them, then 1, 2, and so on. You put till 4. But after that, let's say user basically enters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 from the keypad. Then you will say that, okay, wrong item selection, right? So then you can use default such situation. So here, this is basically an example of switch case. Now let's run this program. So here, let's say I put 5, enter num 5. So 5 is there. So when 5 is there, 5% 2 will give you basically 1. So rem will be 1. So you have switch, and this expression is 1. So 1 will not match with this case. So this will not be executed. So 1 is matching with this 1. So here, this part will execute, right? But here I have a typo. I should have this number is even. It should be odd, basically. So let's rerun this program. So let's type number is 5. So it will show the number is odd, right? So this is executed. Then this break has been executed, which brings your cursor to line number 54, right? So that's basically switch case example. Let's say we forget to, let's run this program again for an even number. So let's say I put number is 4. So 4, if you have num4, 4% 2 will give you basically 0, because if you divide 4 by 2, you will get a remainder of 0. So rem will have 0 value. So then this 0 will match with this 0 in the case, right? And then that's why you have basically this set of statements will execute. So it will display the number is even, right? So now let's run this. So it has displayed the number is even. And then after that break statement has executed and your cursor comes here in line number 54. Now let's say if we forget to put the break statement, let's say, let's make it comment actually instead of deleting. So now let's execute this program. And let's say also I forget here. So what happens? So let's say, let's run this program. So now let's run this. So let's say I put 4. So you should expect that it should display only the number is even. But let's say what happens. So now it is displaying that number is even and the number is odd. Why? What happens that first you provided that number, which is 4. 4 divided by 2, the remainder is 0. So rem is basically 0. So then you have this switch expression, and expression is 0. So 0 is matched with this 0. So then it will display this, execute this, right? And after that, we don't have any break. So the next case statement is case 1, and whatever statements you have here, they will be executed. So here it has only one statement, so it will display the number is odd, right? So here the point is that if you forget to put break, so what will happen that if your program finds a match for that case, so whatever statements you will have, that will be executed, and whatever will come following that, that will also be executed. In this case, the number is odd is coming after that, so it will be executed, right? So that's why we should, in this example particularly, we should use basically break statements, okay? If I forget to put break here, that's fine, because that's the last statement, last case, so we are fine with that. But let's for like symmetry, put the break here too. So that's switch case demo. Let's do another demo of switch case where we may not need break for all the cases, right? But for other cases, we may need the break, okay? So let's work on that.